Rob, into a huge game this weekend, the big game up at Twickenham. What's your thoughts ahead of it all?
Well, we've got to make sure that if it's a big game, that's effective for us and doesn't just work for Harlequins. Traditionally Harlequins do very well in these games. It's a while since we last played in one, but we didn't perform very well in it. We've got to make sure that doesn't happen. That said, we're a different team now, a massive different level of experience and expectation on what we can do. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to lock ourselves down into what's going to be a very important game and make sure we try and make the game about us. And obviously, that's the exact same thing for Quins. But we're in a position now where we've worked extremely hard over the last month, 6 weeks, to collect enough points to be to be challenging around the top four. And it's all very well working hard and getting there and challenging the top four, but now you've got to try and see it off.
The term you've been using is it's a pivotal game. Every game's pivotal. It's knockout rugby now to the end of the season, really.
Yeah, well, that's what it's felt like. I mean, people have been talking to me about what stage of the season do we enter, but I think most clubs will be saying the same way. We're entering like it's not a series of knockouts because you're not out of it by losing one game, but actually you are in a series of one-off games because you can't just kind of go, oh well, win these two, lose that one, because you just don't know what other teams are going to do. The only way to take things into your hands is to go after every game, one game at a time, and collect every point you can. And we've let a few points slip, but at the same time we've collected some wins now that have got us in the chase, and we've got to maintain that.
You talk about slipping points. Do you feel you left one out there last weekend against Sale, or will you take the four?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Sale have been one of the most consistent teams in the Premiership, one of the toughest teams to beat, one of the toughest teams to score against, and we've picked up a very valuable win that keeps us in contention. That said, though, we certainly were in a scenario where you would like to think we could have scored another try. We had opportunity. I think it's more that we had opportunities to score other tries that we didn't see off. It's probably frustrating, but at the same time we worked extremely hard to see off a game that could have slipped away from us. So there's swings and roundabouts, pluses and negatives all the time. I mean, we wouldn't even be talking about that a missed point there if we'd have collected a couple of away wins, because a couple of away wins and we're seated there probably second, third. And we're just talking then about a nice collection of points now and holding some form. So we've probably set the challenges out to ourselves a little earlier in the season, and now we've just got some bigger challenges.
Obviously, home form has been fantastic. It's a role reversal to 12 months ago, isn't it? Where you were winning away and struggling at home. It's away form, and that's really what you've got to kick on over this last batch of the season, really. Yeah,
last season it was slipping up in probably 2-3 home games where we ended up losing by either the last score or in very tight games that would have transformed the season, and we'd have been in the top. We weren't far off the top four anyway. Only like sort of 6 points. It was ridiculous, considering how easily we could have got there. It was an incredibly small amount of points, and as you say, a couple of home wins would have done it for us. This time around now, we need a couple of away wins. We pick up a couple of away wins in the run into the end of the season, and you'd like to think we're with a great chance of climbing the table and locking ourselves down in the top four, but they have to happen. We have to make those games happen, and this is going to be one of them.
Again, you talk about the big game previous, and that was almost in the early days when Twickenham was a new experience for a lot of the guys. A lot of the squad have played Twickenham many times and big games now, so that kind of rules out that fear factor a little bit.
They have, but at the same time, so have a lot of Harlequins players. They played there. And probably a little bit in some ways in these kind of environments, because it's not an international, but it's a different environment. They're obviously more used to it. It's going to be a challenge for us. We've just got to roll up our sleeves and decide that we really want it. I think if we decide that we're going to see the best of ourselves, we can give a massive account of ourselves in every game we play. We genuinely can. That's what we're going to have to decide to do. We're going to have to start seeing the best of the individuals and best of the team, because that will then give us some form to run into. Because ultimately, if we scrap our way into the top four, but we do it just almost by other teams making mistakes and we don't really show form, the top four is going to be a real challenge for us. We need to kind of fight our way in there, showing form week by week and improvement week by week, and we're getting in the right direction to be a championship winning team. That's our challenge. Our challenge is to start showing week by week that there's a lot there and there's more coming.
You're buoyed by the return of international guys. Selection's going to be tough this week, isn't it? It
is, because we've got to balance two sides of the picture here. These guys will be gone again next week, so you've got the challenge of they're good players. They're obviously good players. They're internationals. They played an important part in the season for us so far. Also, if they're in the team, that protects guys who will have to play next week and in the following weeks when they're away. But at the same time, if you've got guys who are on form and merit starts and are up and running, or even need more game time, there's a real balance there. So it's been a tough selection. Been a tough selection week, but it's obviously good to have the options, and for various reasons we've probably taken different scenarios for each position that's available. But on the whole, it looks a strong 23, and it's a 23 we've got to hope can get up there and do the job.
You mentioned options there. Tonight you're going to get a few more hopefully back in the mix, with Jestin, Marcus and 𝗠𝗔𝗘𝗪 in particular coming back from long-term injuries.
Yeah,
big game tonight.
Yeah, there's some long-term injuries there. I mean, obviously the longest being 𝗠𝗔𝗘𝗪. This kind of starts to doesn't mark the complete end stage of his rehab. It's not just going to be he runs out there, that's it, bam, he's back as a Premiership Rugby player. He hasn't played for a long time, and this will be that first marker of which way he's heading, which will be fantastic for him. Obviously, 𝗠𝗔𝗧𝗖𝗛's been out for a considerable amount of time now. He started the season. We started the season as number one prop, really. I think he started our first Premiership game on merit, and so it'd be great to have him in and around, and we can see where he lies. And obviously, Jestin finished the end of last season as one of our two frontline hookers, and played very well off the bench. Had a reoccurring back issue that needed 2 surgeries, but that's sorted now. He looks in phenomenal shape. The way that break has allowed him to really develop and grow and mature. And I'm very, very excited about seeing how he goes tonight, because that will thicken our options as well. So we've got obviously alongside that we've got some exciting young backs playing, and it's great to see more of our academy involved. So there'll be a lot of good positive reasons to watch tonight, and like I say, I'm hoping that will thicken our options.